So, for this game, we have Ian from Team A, Sophie from Team B, Hydroponus from Team C, and NC Game Wizard from Team D. This is a bonus game, no, just 1 point. Players are supposed to just be players who've played relatively few games this tournament. Anyway, so we have an electronics colony this time. All the good carbon is in this southeast corner, but there's no water there, so...
Scavenger might be good.
I think everyone needs to play on ice, though.
Yeah, no, there's no silicon nearby. Never mind.
Probably just
You won't have silicon next to you.
Guess you can maybe make an elite work on that silly little double low silicon up there. Otherwise, you're probably going to see a lot of robots, maybe some expansives.
Expensive, yeah, that's what I'm thinking. I think I'm just going to see a lot of silly stuff, to be honest.
Robotics HQ has been founded.
That
Yeah, that's
definitely qualifies.
yeah, I already had a feeling.
Hydro...
Either also... yeah.
Ian...
Only
Sophie.
Sophie is like doing the standard.
A robotics
Yeah,
HQ has been upgraded.
Still a bit... weird for water, but we'll see what happens. Everyone has a shot here. I don't know what NC's game plan is. At all. Like maybe glass.
It still start have. Maybe that's why he's thinking that.
Yeah, but if that's the case, he should really buy into steel.
An expansive HQ has been upgraded.
Not gonna be cheap much longer.
Well, let's look at Sophie, because she knows what she's doing.
More iron, more steel is fine.
I don't like it, still's half.
I mean, what else are you gonna go into besides glass?
An expansive
Glass.
HQ has been upgraded.
Besides glass. Claiming the geo is also
Water.
kind of weird. I mean, power is slowly rising. It works with the steel play. And there's just not much else to do. But NC also, just going to those panels means that geo is not going to work out. I think I'd just grab the high aluminum as Sophie, and maybe some water. Cancel out the geo.
I think I like the Chronos spot a little bit. I mean, it all makes sense to have these resources. You might want to go class later. I would rather see like a class next to the silicon and then just skip aluminum. One steel.
I'm also a little confused about what NC is doing with his solar panel placement in particular. I guess those were his initial 2 tiles and they upgraded into the 2 quarries. But it's still a little awkward.
If he can make power money, then
Yeah.
should be fine.
I
He
think
might want to have one more solar panel, probably.
And maybe even when he has the money for it, move into a bit of glass instead of collecting all the silicon.
Ian is collecting a lot of carbon.
Yeah, it seems early for that.
He's collecting a lot of primary resources.
Which is
I don't think
fine. I mean, the only other... Right, like we were saying, the only thing it makes any sense to produce is glass, and...
But he doesn't have silicon.
Yeah, but he's gonna go for the glass anyway. NC going for double panel.
New land is
Yep,
available
I
for
think
auction.
I don't like
That's
that.
what you need to do.
No, I don't like that.
You just... I hope no one punish him for it. Otherwise... I mean, oh yeah, I see Sophie with 2 geos, okay. Yeah.
Yeah, I think Sophie's actually in a pretty good spot off of all this. Once Ian starts selling down a lot of glass, then she's... well, Sophie and Hydra are the only steel producers.
Sold.
So if you can make good use of that, then that just is great. Someone needs to buy into this fuel shortage. No one is buying into this fuel shortage. Okay. It's fine. But yeah, at this point NC is committed really heavily into this power. He still has one claim remaining that should have been glass a long time ago.
No, I just bought the coin.
Okay. That would explain it. But still, he should have had some glass down. And now, the reason I didn't like the mass solar panels is that it depleted his entire silicon stockpile, which really would make it harder for him to move into glass.
Yep.
But he still should be fine. People have been selling down enough steel that HQ3 shouldn't be too hard. From there, you can look at condensers into reactors.
An expansive HQ.
Yeah, reactors fuel is not making a lot of. It's a good market. Also water. Anyone in water?
An expansive HQ has been
Ian
upgraded.
does not seem to have decided what he wants to do. Oh, wait, he's going for a geotherm, a single low silicon, and another single low silicon. I really do not like that.
I don't like it because look at this full fuel consumption.
Right. He's going into a single ice condenser as well. He really would have been better served going to multiple ice condensers. He probably also could have skipped this geo for now. There's just enough people committed in there. 3 other geos down. And he already has this pair of turbines. So none of it makes a lot of sense.
Black market is online.
Sophie first into reactors should do great for her, although again her water is still weak.
Pirates.
And now getting
I hate
pirated.
those filthy bandits.
I think
This is
she'll need to go into optimizations to deal with that issue before too long.
this is really a map where you wanted to found elite and just go for Pleasure Dome.
Yeah. But even as not elite, a pleasure dome now would be excellent for anyone.
Just plant it somewhere. I mean, they're holograms, so I'd rather see it like with an elite next to the
New
base.
building is available for option.
Look at the black market. It's really.
Well,
Oh, okay, the game decides.
yeah, no one was going to build one, so the game decides, hey, someone should have one.
Game is listening to us. Wow.
48. It should be worth it for Hydro. 56 is probably the limit. I wouldn't be comfortable with that, but
Congratulations.
Sophie's
It's
dead.
fine,
Yeah.
but still.
Her dead position is fine. She has the 2 geos long term that should keep things a little bit under control, but yeah,
To be honest, I would have gone for 56 probably too.
I might
So if I
have.
look at the market prices, there's nothing to make money on. Like, you had 0 debt, so why not?
Right, especially for Sophie, she can't really get into more water and then more life support all that easily,
The
so this
black
is really her
market is
best
open for
bet.
business.
Meanwhile, Ian, first to HQ4, moving into a lot of condensers now. This is exactly what he should have been doing last HQ. He needs to get out of this glass pretty soon, start building up that silicon stockpile, so
An
he's
expansive
not just
HQ has
wasting
been
his time
upgraded.
auto-selling glass and helping everyone else.
Let's
That's,
get a pen lab up. Chemicals are really cheap. Get teleportation.
Yeah, that would be a fine use for his last claim. Instead he's moving to electronics, which is just a terrible market. Steel, it would be so easy
I
to
mean,
produce.
it's fine. He has a lot of iron stockpiles, so it's better to go for steel with like 1 pen lab.
Yeah, I mean, I would rather steel or reactors.
Thing is, a lot of people are skipping steel. Oh, why are skipping steel?
I guess one reason why electronics might be okay is because of the electronics consumption at the colony. But, I mean, NC is also in electronics, and that just makes things so much worse. Sophie is going to be our first player into a patent lab.
She still has 2 claims that she needs to use.
Right.
Probably on farms. She doesn't need like 2 iron tiles anymore. She can just like
She could have
transition
moved
this medium one into farm and then do
exactly.
2 more next
Have a
to
nice
it.
triangle. Instead, gonna build the farms out to the side. That is fine. It's suboptimal, but it's fine. Also, it doesn't have a goon for the patent lab.
Constructed. Let's get
Oh,
our
no hologram.
science on.
Going for
Just,
VR first is
um,
perfectly fine. Would be a lot of extra money quickly for her.
Yeah.
Not sure what other patents would be all that interesting though. Like maybe thinking machines long term with prices so low. Maybe carbon scrubbing, yeah.
Thinking machines.
I guess you could maybe try superconductor and just connect up that geotherm.
You also want to have nanotech because it's an electronics colony.
Yeah, and because steel is weird this game. Okay, Sophie freezing hydro, Ian slowdown striking Sophie. Oh wow, 48k for thinking machines.
I mean, he needs to do something.
Yeah, he is behind, he didn't have a lot of debt, it's fine, and he has a lot of tiles adjacent to his HQ, so it will help. Long term, off-worlds are pretty solid at this point. $500 for food. Once that price gets a little more under control with optimizations, should be an excellent launch. But I'm really liking Sophie's position.
I'm liking it too. She has like and station center almost virtual reality with a push-down. It's making 334. It's nice.
Right. The only thing I might complain a little about is that our goons are all remote on the Pleasure Dome, on the Geotherm. I'm not going to serve her well long term if it becomes an off-world game, but that's fine. Goons are still cheap. You can still supplement that pretty easily.
There are holograms. So.
Yep.
I think like goons on Geos are almost always a mistake.
Yeah, I think, right, unless it's very early or if it's a double Geo, it's a big commitment. Something that's never really going to pay off long term.
Unless you're making money.
Right. I mean,
or maybe if you're on D-dubs, you do.
Yeah. Even then, it's still very much a short-term sort of thing.
Uh-huh.
Alright. NC is our second player to HQ5 after Sophie. What has Sophie done with these HQ5 claims? Another food claim, and nothing else. Okay. Meanwhile, NC has moved into a triangle of stuff. Solar panels remote is interesting.
Why is Sophie going for this volatile?
A robotics HQ
I'm also just not sure why NC hasn't been producing glass this whole time. It really should be his market. It's it's nicer than electronics.
You should like hack it up.
Mm-hmm. Okay, apparently Ian moved out of electronics at some point and is now moving back in, which is fine, maybe? I don't know what he moved it into. He needs to be back in steel. Oh, he has 2 on his aluminum, which is okay. He should connect those tiles up. He has the claims for it.
I feel like he's transitioning too much.
Yeah. He should also probably be in a Pleasure Dome. Someone should be in a Pleasure Dome to contest Sophie's, because that is a solid, solid tile.
NC should go for this claim, he's in AAA rating.
Mm-hmm. He could pretty easily afford the 28 for it. Hydro is still okay after the 24, but he is definitely solidly behind at this point.
The black market is online.
One thing he has going for him is that he's one of the few players that is producing a solid amount of steel. Oh, okay. So Ian transitioned out of his steel again and back into aluminum, and again just not making steel. It's been a constant issue this game, and I'm not sure it has needed to be one. Okay, I'd like to see Sophie move into some chems. Or someone.
I'd like to see anyone.
Chems are great. Glass is great.
Yeah. Especially the robots need to like have 2 reactors next to it and then upgrade.
Food is also great. Sophie optimizing water and power. They will cover her bases long term. 2 geos, 3 low waters. So it is fine to do. Not sure if it's necessarily something that should have been a priority, but it's fine. Sophie finally moving into some chems. Only player in chem still, and that should be great. I mean, I think the single biggest thing that I dislike about what's been going on is just this competing electronics diamonds from NC and Ian. They've just been auto-selling this whole time. Either one of them could have gotten a nice advantage out of that, or done something better, but instead it's just all kind of nothing.
Is he going for more solar?
Yeah, it makes sense. Power's pretty high. With the superconductor, he'll be doing good work with these two. And I do like the nanotech play following it up.
The black market is
Although I'm
open
not
for
as much of a
business.
fan of the remote solar panels that he chose to build. Just build them next to your base. They're slightly weaker, but then they'd be benefiting from superconductor right now. It's fine though.
He was trying to go for teleportation.
Yeah,
So he
I
might
mean,
want to have swapped us.
This is not an option
guess
for
it makes you a
drugs.
little less vulnerable
These
to
are
the
perfectly legal,
slowdown strike and everything,
high-performance
but I
diet
still have a
supplements.
hard time believing it's worth it. Hydro has finally contested this Pleasure Dome. Still a really good Pleasure Dome. But he's doing a decent job of catching back up. He has this optimization center, which is more than NC can say. His debt is obviously a bit of a problem, and he doesn't have the patents that NC does, but he is maybe getting back into things a little. Sophie going into Ian. How do you feel about that?
Yeah, that's the right person, I think. Because, you know, he's upgrading and it's next to the colony, I think, yeah. That's like a nice boost.
Yeah, he's had that going since HQ4. He's also the expansive. I do like that Sophie has this offload going up. It's going to be great. Does she have thinking machines? No. Right, that was the
She
really
needs an
expensive auction.
hologram.
Yeah. It is at least
That
goon.
might cost her the game.
It might. I don't feel like prices are really high enough for it to be a big mistake here.
Black markets is so cheap.
It is, but no one's really using it. Sophie doing a
But
good
they
job of
should.
buying the dynamite
It
herself.
should be a mistake, let me put
It should be. You're absolutely right. NC also going into a off-world now. His
Yeah,
is
holograms.
hologrammed, and it's boosted. Oh wow, I didn't even notice Sophie picking up financial instruments out of her patent lab. That was a really solid 13k debt tick.
13?
13k.
Optimization routine successful.
It's not great, but it's certainly something.
No. Rather go for upgrades.
I mean, it's fair, but as long as you have that up, not the worst thing in the world. Also just puts pressure on your opponents to pay debt sooner than they might want to, things like that.
The black market
I don't
is
know.
online.
I do think I would like for Sophie not to be in this electronics market. There's already just too much of that going on. Although NC did move out, so maybe it's fine.
Finally,
The
it's going
engineers
in.
have advanced on
Yeah,
production.
now we have Ian and NC competing in diamonds of
Off-road
glass.
shipment launched.
So
Everyone is.
that's just the theme of this game.
Oh, good, then she's. I was searching it.
Yep, this should do a lot to help Sophie.
Yep.
How could one refuse such a
Alright, at this
wonderful
point,
plot of
NC
land?
can only really try to buy Hydro. Hydro is doing good work with these optimizations, but this probably not gonna be enough.
Congratulations.
I guess he does have that one silicon. Maybe he can do something off of that. He has a nice stockpile of silicon. I don't know. What do you do as NC here, stock-wise? Just sit on your cash?
No, you infest.
I mean, into like a second off-world, yeah?
Yeah.
I mean, in terms of stock, you don't do
The
anything.
black market is open for
You
business.
buy into Sophie when it's close. After you cut your second filter.
Yeah, okay, that's fair.
We're not surprised, just disappointed
If
in you.
Ian doesn't finish buying into Sophie, then that would be a good play. And now Sophie's Goon Squad is gone. Oh. That's interesting. But, okay. The choice of player and the choice of target, both interesting. Alright, NC's losing his opportunity to get any stack into Sophie. If he doesn't get any, then Sophie, I think, is just in a really great position.
Yeah. He has so much iron.
That's another 13k debt take off financial instruments. Insane. It's real money here.
Black market is online.
Sophie has this.
She just bought a 50k goon squad. I think it's worth it, honestly. But it doesn't feel
It
great,
is.
of course. The next launch should get her to the buy, and then
Our methods
it's not
continue to
much
improve.
either of the robots can do. Just too much more expensive for them to get up the off-worlds. Especially NC, who would be the greatest threat, just never had access into steel. And that's probably gonna... Oh, actually he picked up these 2 iron tiles. Is he transitioning back into iron? No, he's putting remote steel on them, which is fine. He has 900 iron, but he should probably be making steel next to his base instead of this new electronics diamond. But
Only NC has an echo array, in Philippines, so...
would it though?
Did you think
I
it would
mean,
be so
yeah.
easy to hoodwink?
For glass maybe, but not even then.
Glass and silicon.
Ian has been just constantly fighting him in those markets though. And Hydro had that
Your
big
forward market
silicon
is finished and
stockpile.
awaiting orders.
I don't know. I think there's a big risk that those plays would all backfire if he tried that.
For some reason he's upgrading power.
I don't know.
Like a mistake.
Right, especially with superconductor, it just doesn't make a ton of sense here.
Yeah, I would just transition those 3 solar panels into 3 electronics and then get 1 solar panel next to you guys.
I'm not sure about electronics, but yeah, definitely transition them.
Yeah, electronics. Does he upgraded it? Oh no, he didn't do that. Never mind.
I think steel might be better. You might want it for the eventual off-world. Anyway, Ian has been making a lot of money in the meantime. Not, obviously still not enough to outrace Sophie, but he's all the way up to almost 400k at the end there.
And Sylvie buys Ian. So,
Yep. NC is pushing in there. Even if NC picks up all the stock, Hydro would need something like 840k to finish the buy.
What a payout.
And I don't
NC could
The
maybe
engineers have advanced.
Maybe.
actually win if he has an echo array.
yeah. Also, just
He really needs an echo array.
also needed more optimization sooner. Only now just optimizing electronics. Going full power optimizations is just not something you want to do, especially when you have superconductor.
So I'm skipping power.
Eh? Maybe Hydro? No, Hydro
one
has
is.
2 geos, yeah. Sophie has 2 geos and optimizations. Ian has geo to wind, though I'm not really sure what all that's about. Well, all this black market onto Sophie's offworld is doing good things. It's keeping things somewhat close. Hydro has managed to get a second offworld building. That should be good for him if he has enough time to
but
get that
it's
running.
not holograms.
At this point, it doesn't feel like it really matters though, because I think Sophie and NC are going to be so locked into fighting each other that
It's might.
it might.
I mean, hologram is 4.5k.
Right, it's basically free at this point, but
But he doesn't have the stock price.
he doesn't.
Optimization routine.
But,
Black
I
market
mean,
is online.
Sophie versus NC isn't going to resolve itself anytime soon. I guess the thing to say about that is that Ian is starting to ramp up, has gotten this off-world online, so maybe it doesn't matter. Whoever wins the fight gets a lot of sub-income and can't fight that, but there might be time for something to happen for Hydro.
Would you sell out of yourself if you were NC?
Yes.
I would be thinking of it.
Especially if I see Ian starting to build the second offworld as the sub.
We caught a dirty rat trying to break our stuff.
One thing that NC and Hydro could do that would be very effective is just blowing up Ian's offworlds. That's something, I forget who. Someone earlier today made really good use of. No, it was Mahi last night that made good use of that.
yeah, I don't wanna remember that game, I was remembering
But yeah, blowing up attacking subs can just be really profitable. Well, not profitable, but can be really damaging to their owners. And it's very low risk.
The engineers have advanced our production.
Well, NC,
so close.
he's inching closer. He needs another 240. Sophie needs about 400. Sophie is making that solid 1200 a second though. From Ian. It should be a pretty close race.
Who's leaking power? Oh knows. And the sub. Looking at this power present keeps going up for some reason.
Yeah, it is definitely interesting. Hydro and Sophie both have small deficits.
Off-world shipment launched. Look at all the money.
Okay. Does NC have like another 70 seconds to win the game?
Launch affirmative. What
He's
a
getting
payout.
another launch now. Launch
Yeah,
after.
but he needs another launch.
Right.
But yes. Oh,
Successful
who's
off-world
hacking
shipment.
glass?
Make room for the profits.
That's giving a lot of money to.
Yeah, Hydro is giving that money over.
Oh. Okay, that's.
NC
Yeah.
needs another 80. Sophie needs 150. I think it's still very close. I think Sophie should be able to pull this off.
No, NC should win if he just uses his nano. I mean, still 3, never mind.
Okay, this slowdown strike is huge. That delays that off-world launch.
Yeah, you need to skip it.
Sophie gets this launch off, and then I think she manages just to get there.
Off-world shipment
She needs to
launched.
cancel the next launch.
All the money.
She has the 100%. Sophie. Okay. Okay, so Hydro still has a ton of money. He can make this interesting. He has the 2 off-worlds, but I do think that Ian will be enough to carry Sophie through.
I don't know.
He'll be close.
No sell. Yeah, no. That's no. No way.
He's another 400k short, so if he's only 600k, it's not actually happening, but it was a valiant effort from Hydro. He was pretty far behind. His double off-world was really well done. I think he made good use of black market to keep things a bit more even. The buy into that last share was good. I think most of what the rest of could have happened that wasn't any English or comprehensible would have been just blowing up the subs off-worlds or something. Although I guess he knew that Sophie's off-world was also undefended, so it didn't make a huge difference either way.
Launch affirmative. What a
Yep.
payout. Successful
Fleshy
off-world
down
shipment.
auction.
Make
Really
room for the
helped
profits.
Yeah, the 56k bid was aggressive, and it also just paid off really nicely.
How much did she make? Let me see. Yeah, 370 almost.
Yeah, Sophie's also been pretty consistently attacking other people's pleasure domes, and that's been helping as well. Nice way to get something useful out of driving up the dynamite price. I think the main complaint might have been not pushing for thinking machines sooner before the auction happened. I'm not sure how much opportunity there was for that, but that would have really made things a lot safer. But still, just really well done overall.
Off-world shipment launched. Look at all the money.
I think NC had an interesting game plan. He might have bounded too early there. No one was really gonna fight with him for that spot. And it just didn't work out all that well. That there wasn't as much steel production as he might have anticipated. Also needed to buy the steel earlier, HQ1, but generally not a bad game plan there. Taking strong control of the silicon market, that was always going to be difficult.
And Sophie wins.
Well done.